This episode of Recording Studio Rockstars is brought to you by iZotope, Native Instruments, Atom Audio, and SAE Institute. You're hearing my voice right now mixed through iZotope, Ozone, and Velvet on Atom Audio monitors and headphones. Make sure to get my free mixing course at mixmasterbundle.com, and please check out our awesome sponsors using the links in the show notes. And please like and subscribe to this YouTube channel because it's a great way to help support this show. Now get ready to rock. You get to go back in time and you get to find young Abbie and say,
baby
listen,
me.
Abbie, normal. I've come back to give you this one bit of advice. Here's the single most important thing you need to know to be a rock star of the studio yourself one day. What advice do you feel like you'd like to go back and give yourself if you could?
Be the weird girl. Embrace being the weird girl. Like, they call you Abbie Normal for a reason. Nobody who has ever been anything has been somebody normal. And I think, like, being the weird girl, you've got to really embrace that and not even let the be yourself, but be as weird as possible and have fun doing it.
Welcome to Recording Studio Rockstars. I'm Lij Shaw, and this is the podcast created to help you become a rock star of the recording studio. From synths to strings to studio guitars, Complete 15 has it all. Native Instruments' flagship bundle gives you everything you need to create pro music in any genre, with cutting-edge instruments like Contact 8, Massive X, battery, guitar rig, and session guitarist for lifelike electric and acoustic guitar parts. Use our code ROCK10 for 10% off at nativeinstruments.com or get started with Complete Start totally free. Howdy, Rockstars. I'm Lij Shaw, your host, and welcome back to Recording Studio Rockstars, bringing you into the studio to learn from recording professionals and sometimes aspiring recording professionals so that you can make your best record ever and be a rock star of the studio yourself. My guest today is Abbie Griffin, an engineer, singer, guitarist, and bassist, and a student of recording arts and production at Montclair State University in New Jersey, where she studies audio engineering, post-production, and live event audio. At 22 years old, she says she's already been performing for nearly 2 decades. She loves to make music and has released her first record live from Onie's house, inspired by Joni Mitchell, an artist she's a big fan of. To quote her greatest inspiration, her musical grandmother, quote, "the saddest yet happiest songbird you'll ever meet with that smile," quote. I met Abbie at NAMM when she attended a meetup that I hosted for Recording Studio Rockstars. We were also hosting one from Working Class Audio and Mixdown Online. And when she came up to me and said hello, the first thing she said when she came up was that she was a fan of the podcast, and so was her dad. And for me, it's so cool to hear that the podcast is reaching a wider and a younger audience, and it's able to inspire and help those who are just starting out in their music and audio studies and career. And today we're going to find out what it's like to be a young student of recording, to be a musician and a songwriter. We'll find out what she's learning in school, what she thought she needed to learn, and what music means to her. We'll also discuss where she thinks music is headed from the perspective of the next generation of music makers that are going to ultimately shape the future of music. We'll also explore the rapid changes in music technology with AI and how the definition of a producer is evolving for the next generation. Please welcome Abbie Griffin to Recording Studio Rockstars. Abbie, are you ready to rock?
Yes, I am ready to rock.
How do you feel about that? I mean, you've been listening to the podcast, and now I'm asking you personally.
That's kind of crazy. And on my drive down, too, I had a couple episodes playing.
Oh, did you really?
Now it's me.
Do you remember who you were listening to? I know that's throwing you under the bus right there already.
It was like a whole, I think I listened to just your top couple videos. That was my first drive of, that was like probably the first 3 hours of 16. So yeah. I can't remember.
So you are in New Jersey, but you've come down to Nashville for a visit down here. Mm-hmm. You're going to check out some places, meet some people, and we get to have you on the podcast,
Yes.
which is really cool.
Yeah, and I was on a little tour expedition. I wasn't gigging myself, but I was like managing one of my friends who's an artist. And so we went to Penn State, and then we went to Oberlin College. And then from Oberlin, they went back to New York, and I drove down here.
Ooh, that's cool. I've got a niece who's graduating from Oberlin, so I'll
Very
be up
nice.
there for a graduation ceremony.
Oh, cool. Yeah. It's a cute little town.
It's a
up there.
beautiful place too. Yeah. So why checking out all these different stops on the way? Are they, is this like next plans for you as a student?
I think, well, so a little bit, I am feeling a kind of a pre-post-grad dread because I have a lot of older friends that have like just graduated last year or maybe 2 years ago, and they're feeling the post-grad stress. And I always try and, jump the gun for everything. So I'm feeling the post-grad stress when I graduate in May. Yeah, but I'm kind of figuring out where I want to place myself, like live, and then see what kind of industries are around any place, basically. I went to NAMM, California, and I went to, San Diego around there, and LA, Anaheim, and I felt the energy there. And so this whole, next semester for me, like from January to May and the summer, is for me to explore different areas to see what the music scene is all around the country. Maybe I kind of want to go to Spain and see how that is, European market. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you like Spanish music?
Yeah. And my dad speaks Spanish, and so I know a
Hablo
little
español.
bit. Sí un poquito.
I'm trying to learn it a little bit because I want to do some
Duolingo.
Traveling too.
Yeah, exactly.
You're the third person to say Duolingo is
My
what I should
dad
check out. So
has his students.
I'm writing it down finally.
Literally, yeah, you gotta. The owl, he's a little scary.
Oh, there's an owl?
Yeah, he gets aggressive if you don't do your lessons. But I've been basically trying to see what kind of vibe I feel the most resonates with me, because I always was a New York or nothing kind of girl. And then I went to California, and I'm a little, I think I'm questioning my New Yorkness.
New York is loud and it draws a lot of attention, and it's a wonderful
Me too.
place. But the world is a big place, and there's a lot to explore and discover. So that's pretty cool.
And I'm learning that. And I never really went very many places. I went a couple places in high school for choir. Like I went to Disney, I went to Chicago, Montreal, and I loved Montreal. Chicago, not so much. But I really like seeing the different types of people that are around and seeing who I resonate with and what kind of energy speaks to me the most.
Okay, cool. So you started out, you were doing the choir thing. Now, as a singer, what kind of stuff did you feel was useful about studying vocals in that way, and how has it helped you?
So I think I didn't realize what was helpful for me when I was going through it. But now looking back, I think my biggest takeaways are learning how the voice functions, like physically, and like how resonance works. There's this one website, it's like the pink something, but you can move around the pieces of the voice. I wish I knew what the website was called, but you can like move the tongue placement, and it sounds like how it would sound in somebody's mouth.
It's an app?
It's a website, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's like the pink noise.
So if you're trying to figure out how to do a certain vocal tone or sound, something you maybe heard before, you can go try this out.
Yeah. And
what do you think it's called? Do you remember? Well, you just keep going, and I'll
It's like I
use the power of
the
AI to find it at the same time.
Pink tube voice website. I don't know, but it looks weird. It sounds weird, and it is weird, but it's so informative on how the anatomy of the voice works, and like how dropping and then moving up your larynx, and then soft palate, rising, lowering, and tongue placement can all affect the vowel sound.
Right.
And that's really important when you're doing different genres of things. And I knew it was important when I was, studying the
Pink
Latin.
trombone, is that it?
Pink trombone.
Look at that.
Yes.
Amazing technology.
Right?
It's my new AI assistant.
Yeah. The
and there's
pink trombone.
another one that says Vocabary as a voice training app. Mm-hmm. Offering custom lessons for pitch and feedback. So this is what it says. It says pink trombone, This interactive web-based application simulates the human vocal tract, allowing users to explore how different vocal tones are produced. So it's funny, it's like, you think about like AI stuff, which we'll talk more about that here in a bit too. But we think about how it's, we're training it to do stuff. And now here's an example of it's actually training us how to do stuff too.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe that's a good part of the feedback loop.
It's like integration of technology with the human body, literally, and then how it's informing us intellectually.
Yeah. Okay. So now choir, stuff I remember about choir was, so specifically, I remember learning things like blend your voice with the other voices, don't be louder or too or quieter, try and be in there. I remember learning things about, hide your consonants and your sibilants and things like that. And I don't remember what pitch things I really learned. I feel like that's just sort of, you just sort of learn it. Although I do know a big challenge in choir was knowing where your starting note is. Because if you don't have a reference beforehand, you're like, where am I supposed to be?
I luckily had a really good couple of choir teachers, and they would train us on like pulling like audience. And so audiating your starting note before singing.
Audiating. The audiator.
Yeah.
Abbie the audiator.
That's like I'm going to use that. I don't know on what, but that's a good one.
Do it.
I'll write it down. But audiating like A440 in our brains. And that's what we would start like our warm-ups on. And
what does that mean?
So it means like hearing the note in your brain and making the it was kind of like that mind-body connection before you actually sing and release the note. So you're positioning in your body, like vocally through the pink trombone aspect, would form the note of the A, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then she would be like, all right, audiate before, and then cue us in, and we would all go and cue and sing the same note. Well, within octaves, for the
I think it's interesting, and what's fascinating to me, I've been doing this for so long, and yet still, I feel like I'm just like a beginner student all the time.
Yeah.
So like learning things like, you're familiar with the term like A440. You're like, oh, that's A. That's like your tuning reference. The tuner. Make sure it's in 440 or whatever. But, when do you stop to think about it? Like, what exactly is A440? And my guess is it's probably smack dab in the middle of the human voice range, right?
Pretty much.
That's probably why it's relevant.
I think so, yeah.
Because every instrument is relevant to the human voice, It's lower than what the human voice is. It's higher.
Or like how the violin encompasses the exact quote unquote like timbre range of the human voice.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, and
it's got some high notes in there too.
Well, if you think about like the operatic sopranos and stuff, that's
really
right within their
there?
range too.
Wow.
And usually it's pretty much within like a soprano twos ish range. But that's why like lead lines for fiddle and violin and like, that kind of thing, strings can make you so emotional because it's the instrument that most closely resembles the human voice.
That's badass. Rockstars, you see why I wanted to have Abbie on the podcast after meeting her? Because I like your enthusiasm. Like you seem very clear on your interest in this, in music and everything, and pretty driven. So for example, we were at the meetup and you were asking about mastering, and I was like,
I like word vomited at you. It was crazy. Anyway.
Well, it's all right. It's all right. But my point is like, you mentioned that you were doing production and stuff, but you needed a good mastering engineer. I was like, I just met him. I was just chatting with an engineer here. And of course, and so I'm like, you want to meet him? And you're like, sure, great. And so we go over and I introduce you to Brandon, I think it was, right? And so then you meet him and then you're like, what kind of stuff have you done? He's like, well, we just won like all the Grammys for everything, You're like, oh,
I was like,
cool,
oh, cool.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's cool to see that kind of enthusiasm. And I've seen enough of it in the music business, or at least in my experience, to know that the thing that carries, I mean, talent has got to be there, but the
Definitely.
big driver for what carries people from the beginning to, great amounts of success is just simply the desire and the motivation and the confidence, being willing to, self-believe in what you're doing and go for it.
Yeah. Well,
So
fingers crossed.
Carry on.
Yeah.
So, all right. So those are some fascinating things about singing in a choir now.
And sight reading too.
And sight reading, right? Okay.
Yeah,
So you
was a
really learned
big
how to
thing
do
for
that.
me. Yeah. And even like, I'm not the greatest reader. I do most everything by ear anyway. But when needed, I can really like lock in, and it's almost muscle memory at some points for
Right.
sight reading certain
Right.
things. Guitar gets really hard, but like for rhythm sight reading, for when I play drums, I didn't realize that I had like that sight reading chops kind of in
So
my
you're a
back
funky
pocket.
drummer.
Yeah, a little bit. I
Cool.
really miss playing drums. I haven't played in a while, but I like
well,
rhythm.
then you're off to a good start, because one of the things that happened to me, and probably happens to a lot of people, is the moment you start building a studio, maybe you start out with being interested in one instrument, but then now I've got some different instruments in the studio. I'm like, well, I'm going to learn how to play this. I'm going to learn how to play that. So, sitting down, I always was really fascinated by learning how to play drums. So I'd sit down and start playing a lot more
It's fun.
bass.
It's hard. You have like all your limbs going octopus arms at once.
That's true. Yeah. And then also like learning,
Bass, yeah.
what kind of stuff actually helps the song versus just gets in the way. And the more you record stuff and produce, the more you have a sense of that. And then,
Yeah.
then you'll sit down at the drums and like, you might surprise yourself. You might find that you have a much easier time playing to a click track and playing a simple, awesome part than a drummer
Yeah.
who doesn't know that stuff yet does. you
Yeah.
know?
Or like creating space within the track of things to add versus things to take away. Like, I remember we were doing scratch drums for one of my friend's songs, and I was hearing something in my head that was very different than what she wanted. And I was like, oh, we don't have a drummer in here. And then I was like, wait a minute. I forgot that I took drum lessons. So I hopped on, and then it was scratch. We didn't have the mics set up for anything. So we had 2 overheads and then like a in-between mic and maybe a snare. And I played the groove, and she was like, that's exactly it. I didn't know I had that in me, but I think it's really good.
And this was an artist you're producing?
Yeah. And
was she supposed to be the drummer, or were you just didn't know what you were going to do?
We were only doing guitar vocal that day, and we were doing scratches for 3 of her songs because we wanted to do like a little EP, but she didn't have any real demos besides like voice memos. So I wanted to get her in, and we were talking about like the kind of vibe that she wanted. And so we really had one song that we were focusing on, and that was the song that we ended up, adding more parts to. But we didn't know where that was going to take us, and we just wanted it to be a let's see how we work together tracking day. And then we started to get going, and the ideas kept flowing. And then she was like, I think we have to decide on a drum thing. And I was like, okay, let's see. And we were talking and talking and talking, and it just ended up being like, you know what, we have to lay down something. Let's go in. And I had my 2 engineer team, and I was like, how many mics do we have? Can we kind of mic up this like terrible, disgusting drum kit that's in the school studio that like, it's not tuned, it's terrible, but it was there for us to kind of get the framework of the song. And so we talked about it. I hopped in. I only did 4 passes of it, and I did something a little bit different every time. And then we got into a good rhythm.
You mentioned being interested in sort of muted drums, I think was the term you used, right?
Yeah.
When we were walking around the studio earlier.
Yeah.
And so, as opposed to like rock drums, which I think
Big
rock
washy
drums
cymbals,
kind of need to sound like a confident drummer in a real drum kit in a real room a lot of times. But for the songwritery stuff, it's much easier to get away with something less demanding from the drum kit in terms of, I don't want that to be misinterpreted. It's still got to feel great.
Yeah,
but
it has to have some nice lay down rhythm.
Yeah, but like you could kind of pillow up the drums and mute the snare and keep it tight, and a couple of simple mics.
Yeah, I think I had my phone
really
and my
long
wallet
way.
on the snare.
Yeah,
and I might have been using. I have these light pink jazz sticks.
Yeah.
And so I was going really light on it. We wanted like I don't remember what kind of vibe, but it was like that kind of bedroom pop, claro. What else? Like,
sort of like
Gracie Abrams almost. Yeah. And
right, which is
like
much simpler than...
Yeah. And some little shuffle kind of energy, not very many cymbals. I think I used the bell of the ride, and that was probably it.
Yeah.
And I did some, a lot of my jazz drumming is from my my drum professor. I wanted to do like just basic rock drums, and he made me learn like rhythms, and a lot of which was on the rim of the floor tom. And so I had like cross stick action, some bell action, some rim of the floor tom, and then, a couple little fills.
Yeah.
But mostly it was like auxiliary percussion using the drum kit, which was cool.
Right. At Isotope, mixing and mastering just got even smarter. Velvet gives you silky vocals with sibilant slurn de-essing, dynamic tone shaping, and D-click, all in one plugin. And Ozone 11 now includes clarity, upward compression, and AI-powered stem focus to help you master like a pro. Use code ROCK10 for 10% off Ozone or any of Isotope's incredible plugins at isotope.com. And now, have you tried building loops from that stuff? Because it can be like incredibly powerful too.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like the simple act of having something mic'd up. Like you could have one mic. You could have two mics. You could have one in front of the kick and one on top above the drums and the snare, and that might be all you even need.
Yeah.
And then you just play like a couple of simple beats, loop it. You can really build a track cool that way.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about doing that is if you get something that feels kind of right, all of a sudden you don't need a click track to play everything to. Like that's the thing that just puts everything in the pocket.
I am not good at following the click track for the whole song. I am so terrible at it.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what we did. I played it for the verses, and I did 3 repetitions of the beat that I had going, the whatever rhythm. And then I had a different one for the chorus, a different one for the bridge.
Smart, you were thinking ahead.
Yeah. And I tried going through it. That's why we only did it 4 times, because the first 2 times, my engineers, they were like so mad at me. They were like, Abbie, you're not following this click track at all. And I said, okay, just put me in for the verse. Okay, just put me in for the chorus. And then we only did, 8 bars of each rhythm. And then we looped. I
mean, you'll be amazed. You might find that like 1 bar of everything and each part is all you need.
I think we ended up cutting it too, and then repeating because I could not stay on the rhythm because I'm not a drummer, but I could do enough.
But I think this is great because there's so many people, who are listening who might be in that boat where it's like, it's a common thing to want to record more music. Maybe all you've got is yourself to get it done.
Yeah.
So how are you going to get it done? And, we can lean on tools like, Addictive Drums and Logic Drummer and all these other things.
Kyle.
But they're also limiting, they're also like, they're both pretty amazing and kind of limiting because, you don't have quite as much control over the feel, the subtleties of what it does.
Exactly. The groove.
In a way that you do when you just can, play 1 bar of something yourself.
Yeah.
So to that point, maybe we should talk a little bit more about that. But a couple of ideas that come to mind for me are what you said, which is like, go play along with the verse, and you're just looking for like 1 good bar that you can
exactly.
Loop. You can always use the tools to tighten it up just a little bit more, and that's effective. And then go play in the chorus where the feel's a little different, and you can do one of that. If the cymbals are a problem, like if you're like, the cymbals don't, because 1 bar, you don't want a crash to happen every 1 bar. So you can just overdub the crash and stuff like that. Or you can even overdub the ride.
Exactly. I don't think I even used the cymbals at all. They put me in for different fills, and I would go back over for like the transitions between verse and chorus.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. That's so brilliant. You already got the idea figured out.
Locked in.
So then you just you just take those loops, play along to it, or just play another pass and just do transitions or whatever, or just put an empty hole at the end of the verse going to the chorus.
And that's like...
And just do a bunch of them and then comp in the best one, and there's your drum fill going
with
from one section to the
next. With the advances in technology, you don't have to, cut the tape. You can whatever go around your Pro
Well,
Tools.
you're going way back if you're gonna reference tape and like as if like, boy, things are easier for Abbie now. I mean, tape's
for me,
been gone.
With my long.
Tape's been gone for quite a bit.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's still here. Sorry.
I would like
lovers.
it. I would like it.
It's still here. I'm just saying that, like, you grew up where. Well, let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, at 22, when you first, what do you feel like is the stuff that you grew up with? When you think about like the way things used to be, it might be a tricky question because you're also aware of how it used to be before you were growing up with music.
Like personally, for me, my dad had a little baby home studio.
Okay, cool.
Still does, but it's caught up with the times now.
Your dad is also a fan of the podcast.
Yes,
Hi, Dad.
Hi, Dad. He is 100% going to be be watching this, probably on repeat.
I'm drinking, in honor of that, I'm drinking from the mug with me and my daughter.
Yes.
Today, which is, she actually looks a bit like you in this mug right there. Although we're making goofy faces.
No, that's me and my dad too. And you have a beard in that one. My dad is like king of beard. Yeah.
Yeah, right on.
So he started with, he had DAWs and things. Mm-hmm. And he had his like little Mackie mixer, 16 channel, whatever. And he had like a mic set up and everything, but we did a lot of CD stuff and he did a lot of CD burning.
Right.
And well, so I was born in 2003 and the reason why
You're still rocking CDs at that point for sure.
Yeah. And 2 decades is because there's recordings of him doing mic tests in his studio with me as a little baby singing like in the headphones is like the karaoke track of Part of Your World from The Little Mermaid or awesome. Pocahontas or Cinderella songs and stuff. And so he would do like his mic tests with me as a little kid. And it was definitely, so if I compare that to now, it was a lot more slower, kind of. I don't know. We were just talking about how digital studios versus analog is like you have a whole new set of issues. And to me, I mean, I know I was a little baby, but even when I was like in middle school, I don't really know if we had that kind of the same kind of problems and the same kind of advantages because we did a lot of, he recorded into a DAW too. But my dad is like anti-digital mixer still to this day.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
He like hates them.
So wait, so you might be using, or he might be using a computer to actually capture the music and play it back, but he's using it more like a tape machine.
Yeah.
So then is he mixing it back through the Mackie mixer?
Yeah.
Which is a great sound. I mean, that's the funny thing about this stuff. Like, I remember the Mackie mixer comes along. We get really excited. We're like, holy shit, you can get this cool mixer. And it's, kind of generally it was affordable back then. Mm-hmm. And then you use it and I was really excited. I had my 1604 and we had a 3208, I think it was, or something at the studio at Alex the Great. And then it's passe. And then you're in the computer and it's like, oh, that's old Mackie, right?
Yeah.
And then it comes back again. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, the Mackie, what were we doing? What were we thinking? It was so cool,
That's what my dad says every time. He's like, Old Faithful, they always come back to it.
Exactly. Yeah. One of the things that got me re-interested in the Mackie was when a friend of mine was pointing out that was like the Daft Punk sound, all the early Daft Punk records. Mm-hmm. That and an Elisa's 36, what was it, the 3630?
Yeah, I think
compressor?
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rox, it's been a minute since I said some of these model numbers.
Okay.
But, it's just a good reminder. Now, does that give us all permission to be pack rats? You're not there yet, but you might be down the future, and like have basements full of gear we're not using because it might come back around one day.
Well, that's
I don't know.
How my dad is.
Yeah.
Like the shelves of stuff. He has 29 guitars. And so.
He's got me beat.
Really? Well, he's a freak about it. That's why. But he has like so much stuff that my mom was like, Mike, can you get rid of that, please? And then within the last year or something, I've used it in every like shoot or in every.
You're using all the stuff.
I literally use all of his stuff, and then he's
go.
like, "See, guys, I told you."
That's great. That's awesome.
I don't know if you should subscribe to that, but.
All right, well, so tell us about some of the old stuff that you really like. What have you been digging? What are you pulling off the shelves?
Well, this one's gonna be like a pretty basic one or like a fan favorite. But he had these vintage U87s that say made in West Germany, and I like had no idea about them before I went to college because I like knew some audio things. I knew a lot of from in front of the mic, not necessarily behind the scenes. I knew a lot about the live stuff, and I did a lot of theater stuff. But he had these mics in the cases, and I was like, oh, those old microphones and the whatever. And the cases are like, you know, the foam is disintegrating. And then when I needed mics for things at school, I was like, oh, a U87. Oh, wait, there's a U87 in this old shoot with Elvis. Oh, Whitney Houston. Oh. Right. And then we used it. And then
you go open it up back at your dad's house.
Yeah.
And it's like that,
and I was like,
crumbling.
This is the holy grail. This is the vintage, you know, matched pair, whatever.
And the crumbling foam syndrome is the worst.
Well, then the
like
case
the old
is
headphones,
like
just like
dirty. Yeah,
they melt on your face.
And then you're like, what do you have
that.
on your neck?
Yeah.
And it's black pieces of the headphone foam. But the same thing happened with these too. You would open it up, like it's these old, disgusting, beat up cases. Then you open it up. It's like a beautiful,
pristine looking inside.
Amazing. Yeah. One of them is a little more beat up than the other. But I remember we went into the studio and we compared the new one, the, you know, newer-ish 2015 model of the U87, which is very different from the old one, like character-wise. And I was like, my dad has had these, 2 of them, and he did not let me use them. And then I went back home and I asked him, Dad, hey, do you think that I could like maybe borrow the U87? He was like, you can have one. You can use one. Come back to me. If it's anything is damaged, anything is dirty, you will never be able to use it again. And now we're pretty chill. We're pretty cool.
So how do you describe what it is about a U87 that you like, other than pictures of famous people using it? Is there a way you would describe what it sounded like to you?
So for me, the hot take, I don't know if it's my favorite vocal mic.
It doesn't have to be.
I think it's like an industry favorite, but I don't know if it's like for personally my voice, if it's the best, or in general, I think it's a good, like not baseline, but I think it's really clear. I think the clarity like on the high end and your kind of transient level, you know, that end of the spectrum is really clear. And yeah, the frequency response, but also the color of it has got that condenser clarity, open air kind of sound. So everything just sounds really clear and really well translated.
What kind of instruments sound good to you on that? Your acoustic?
Because some vocals do.
Some vocals do, yeah.
But I usually like a warmer vocal sound, so like a 414, which is also maybe a hot take. Or the Austrian Audio OC818, which is, you know, 414-esque.
Yeah.
That has become my next new favorite. But I think the 414, is good on vocals. And then the U87s are really good on like overheads, I've been hearing. Then guitar, acoustic. Because I had done like a lot of pencil condenser, you know, small diaphragm condenser things on acoustic guitar, which sound really nice too. And I've done a couple trial runs of certain acoustic guitars with U87, and I think acoustic guitar is really, really nice, you know, mic'd up on the 12th fret.
Yeah,
U87.
Indeed. Yeah, so I pulled up a frequency chart. I'm trying I'm trying to really demonstrate my ability to screen share in a moment's notice here.
Exactly, with the at the 10-ish K.
Yeah, so this comes from the recordinghacks.com site. But you could see these different frequency responses. And I don't know if that's the standard roll-off there or if that's with a roll-off. But I'm guessing this one maybe is with a higher roll-off if it has different roll-offs. And then you've got this 10K boost. So that kind of clarity, which isn't necessarily what you might want as a female singer. You know, maybe, because I feel like sometimes the mics that appeal to us for different use cases are like, a woman's voice maybe has highs in it. And so we want a mic
that could be shrill
fills in
if
the other
you have
parts.
Too much high from your mic, you know?
Right. Whereas a male voice might not have the highs, so we might like the highs from the other mic. So
I haven't done too much with male voices in the studio, and that's kind of like, I feel like I need to experiment so much more with different types of voices, because I've had a lot of types of female voices and not so much in the male category.
Well, and that makes sense. I mean, you start out, I think, by working with and recording the people that you know, your friends. Because they're the first people you get to invite.
And I have a lot of male guy friends who are instrumentalists that are like really good. So we've been...
So they don't want to sing. They're not ready to sing, but they're ready to back you up on some instruments.
Yeah, or they're ready to sit in the studio with the drum kit, test out things for hours. But trying to get somebody behind the mic, a guy to sing, has been hard.
So now, do you have a studio of your own too? Or do you have something that you call yours, which you're using to record and make music right now?
Well, that's been like my newest expedition, to find somewhere to call home base, kind of. I've been floating around, Montclair and New Jersey, northernish, to figure out places to go and somewhere to work out of as a producer. Because I'm straying from the engineer kind of aspect, because I know that I want to be a little more heady, a little more creative, a little more that kind of thing. But I think it's really valuable to know
but you probably have the laptop and some kind of...
Of course.
Yeah, what app do you like to use to make music right now?
Well, so my basic setup is literally my HP laptop, which Windows.
Cool.
Some people might disagree with that, but that's where I started. But that's a my dad thing too. Is a Windows. I don't really know why.
Your dollar goes a lot further when you go Windows.
Yeah, and the upgrade, DIY, do yourself version of if I needed more RAM or drive space or anything. Scarlett 2i2.
Okay.
Plugged into my new upgraded. I got Genelex. What are they? The 1030s.
Those are great.
Yeah, those I bought off of Reverb, and they're two different generations, but they're the same model, but two different generations. So those switches are on the opposite side. The screws are different. It was whatever, but it's a good way to start. And I talked to one of my professors, and he was like, "That's a great investment if you start off with whatever Genelex you're going to have them for the rest of your life." But
and if you think they're not really matched, you can always just flip-flop your left and right every once in a while. Just kind of even things out. I think they're
pretty good. They're pretty even. Just visually, maybe not.
Right.
And then I have my mics switch around. I had the Rode, what is it, the NT1?
Classic starter mic right there.
Yeah. That was yet again, my dad, Chris's gift. I was like, I need something, please.
Yeah.
I need a condenser, because I was just using the Scarlett, the one that comes in the student kit with the headphones and the everything. And then
have you got your eye on any upgrade mics in the future one day?
Well, I want to get some 414s, and I want that to be my go-to, because I think that they have presented themselves to me in the most versatile manner, because I've done things with toms and guitar cabs and bass amps and overheads and vocals and acoustic guitar, all with the 414. And I think that that's a good... They're not the most expensive, but they're very versatile. And so that would be my next go-to. And I think it's a little similar to how the NT1 sounds.
Dreaming of a career in audio or the entertainment business? SAE Institute Nashville, in the heart of Music Row, offers hands-on programs where you'll learn on professional-grade gear with industry pros, learning through real projects, not just lectures. Explore studio production, live sound, audio for film, and a whole lot more. Or take the entertainment business program to learn about contracts, promotion, and more. With diploma, associate, and bachelor's programs, there's a path for you. Book a tour today at nashville.sae.edu or call 615-244-5848. The 414's a classic mic. It's a great choice. I mean, there's a big difference between some of the newer and older ones. And I have an old BULS one, which is pretty darker. Sounds really beautiful on voice sometimes, you know. And then, some other similar mic options. You mentioned the Austrian audio, so that's another great one. And the Lewitt LCT 640 TS is another. It's similar to the 414 in that it's got that versatility. But in probably half the price of those two are the Roswell Pro Audio mics, which don't have the switchability if you want like
polar patterns
and stuff. Some I'm trying to remember, some of them do, like I think the Delphos does, but they can sound really great too. Nice. And then Jay-Z Microphones is another fun one. These are both mic companies that I'm very familiar with.
Lower price point.
And there's a ton out there too. And then Vanguard. Audio Labs
I've heard.
Great.
Oh, I think I stopped by them at the show.
Yeah, Derek has been on the show as well. Mm-hmm. So those are great mics, and they're well within the affordable range for studios too. Yeah. And it's all relative. Everybody's version of affordable or expensive is just totally relative.
Well, when I'm on that post-college student budget.
Yeah. And in the end, it's all about like how you use the stuff anyway. We're listening to the music.
Yeah.
So, do you have some examples of musicians that have made records with low budget gear that you're familiar with that really got you excited? Anybody that really inspires you?
Honestly, this is kind of straying from the mic thing, but Lazy McAlpine, her engineer, found a toy guitar and like filled it in with resin and put pickups in it. And took literally thrifting toy guitar from the Goodwill or wherever and used it on her album. And the song that I was listening to before Spring into Summer, that low end, I'm pretty sure he used it on that one. But her most recent album, there's like this saturated, warm, beautiful, distorted guitar sound. And it's made from a homemade DIY toy guitar electric upgrade.
Wow, that's cool.
And that is the thing that most prominently sticks out to me. I know there's a lot of other things that I've listened to that are lower budget.
And there's that difference, it's not difference, but like there's that awareness of DIY home building the instrument because, in that case, we're just trying to make a sound that we like.
Yeah.
And either less expensive or, left of center, unusual thrift store find recording gear, microphones, or tape machines, or
it's
old
definitely
computers
like
or whatever, interfaces.
A different beast when you're thinking of recording gear versus instruments, because instruments could kind of be anything, I think, in a way.
Right, you can go play sounds out of the kitchen.
You can spoons, that's an instrument. Like you have spoons players in bluegrass bands.
Yeah. And the cool thing about singing too is you can just, there's so much expression in the human voice. You can make so many different sounds and you can evoke.
Well, I think like thinking outside of the box is really important to do, even if you're doing like stuff with mics and recording. Yeah. I think instruments is really important to do that. And I think like that's, you don't need the top of the line, player series, whatever, guitar. You don't need your, I think things are unique in that way if you get the top of the line, top notch thing. But what's really unique is the character of everything. And so, lower budget mics or even stuff recorded like Billie Eilish, she sits in the studio next to her brother and records on a 7B. So like
that's the Shure SM7B.
The Shure SM7B, yeah. And it's like that's not as low budget, but it's a basic mic. Or she does literally a 58 with a windscreen on it, just sitting there. And that's what she did for a lot of her most recent album and like her song Bad Guy. And that was a lot of, it's just her in the studio. If you listen to the isolated vocal tracks, you can hear the bleed from the speakers. But because it's so layered. She didn't
even just headphones necessarily.
No. Yeah.
That's cool. It's
sometimes
cool
on some stuff, but yeah.
That's
I think,
cool.
And that is like, those Shure mics are your, like even your 57s are your, in economy stable.
Your dynamics, yeah.
Yeah, dynamics. They're like basic. Everybody uses, throw a 57 on it. Oh, we could use it. Yeah, yeah. you've got an extra mic, it's probably a 57.
Yeah.
It's been run over 4 times. Or like the 58s in your bars in open mic kind of atmosphere. They're dented in. They're like
bring your
terrible.
own mic cleaner.
Yeah, exactly. Those windscreens never washed ever. Probably.
Yeah.
They don't even know.
I've got a horrible story about that.
I have taught so many people. I was like, do you know that you can unscrew it and take it off? They were like, what are you talking? Don't break it. And the whole thing comes off. And I'm like, you're supposed to watch this.
You're supposed to watch it. Yeah. You want to hear my gross story?
Please, yeah.
All right. So
we were
doing a song. It was called the Chemistry Song in my band in college. And Rich Skubish sings all these great, funny lyrics. And at one point, he's singing a song about like mixing all this stuff together as a chemistry student. And then he ends up with a test tube full of air. That's the punchline. Mm-hmm. And so we're doing and I'm singing harmony with him, and I get to the end, and just before he says air, I thought like, oh, I'm going to make like an air sound. But instead of blowing on the mic, I inhaled. I went like that. And all the stuff that was in that mic came right out of it, right into my mouth.
That is so disgusting.
Oh, God. So lesson learned.
You actually?
Yeah.
That's really gross.
Yeah,
that's really gross.
But I did it for the team. I took one for the team. Yeah, now everybody knows.
Yeah. Now never do that.
I mean, it took me 30 years to make the podcast and finally get it out there. But now everybody knows that, don't suck on the microphone. Don't inhale on it. Blow on it if you got to make a special sound effect.
Ew,
okay.
That's really gross.
So let me pivot for a sec. Because one of the things you mentioned, we don't have to go long on this, but I just thought it really caught my attention, is along with your interest in music and recording, you also, didn't you say you were also like doing strength training or weightlifting and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's that all about?
Well, so I do yoga every day.
Okay, cool.
And I was a part of my weightlifting, like Olympic weightlifting program in my high school.
Olympic?
Yeah. And so
that's the name of the style of lifting.
Yeah.
You guys weren't in the Olympics.
No, imagine I would be way cooler if that was the case. No, but it's like using kilos and doing like traditional deadlifts or like a clean jerk.
Yeah.
Sumo deadlift,
clean
RDLs,
jerk. That seems like another cool name to use for something.
Like a band name, like
the name of a record. Clean jerk.
Clean jerk. Clean jerk studios. Nobody take that. So I did a lot of strength training when I was in the middle of I was like a 3-season athlete, and I did a lot of theater and music stuff all at once.
Right.
And I kind of strayed away from that starting college. And as soon as I got back into it and doing, focusing on my like health and fitness and that kind of thing, this past like calendar year, it's really impacted my level of creativity based on like day-to-day stuff that I've noticed and focus too. And my dad, yet again, has a whole philosophy on like the body and mind connection.
Right.
And through starting my yogi journey, and, going to the gym and lifting, it's really allowed me to make decisions creatively, like when I'm in the studio as the producer, with like in a snap, in an instant, to rely on myself and my own instincts, because I think the stress and the anxiety kind of leaves, or I can deal with it in a better manner because I have literally less stress in my body through doing the weightlifting and fitness and stuff. And also because it just like, my back hurts a lot. So
I've noticed that too. The more I lift too, like, I don't think like it's the lifting that's hurting my back. It's when it's the in between.
It's the when
I do like the full body ones without weights.
And
then I'm like, my back kind of aches after that.
And then you do, like, my recovery for that is more yoga, just doing more of it. And if I keep up with it, if I'm in a routine, then my daily routines follow in like a nice, organized kind of set up manner. So why would it's really when I take breaks is when I notice things are like really wrong and everything just feels wrong. And I like, my friends notice with me too. They're like, you're being weird today. I'm like, forgot to do yoga this morning. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's great, and it's good to hear that you've got that attitude or that understanding of exercise and health and stuff like that.
And I've been trying to do self-discipline stuff too.
It helps with a lot of stuff. And, like for me, I put in a decade initially of making records where it was like 7 days a week, morning, wake up to sleep. And it's not a healthy way to live.
Yeah.
But I think that the fact that every time I took a break, it was like, go work out, eat dinner, back to the studio, kept me able to deal with it all,
Yeah, and I learned the hard way a little bit last summer because I would go, early in the morning. I was teaching this songwriting camp, and we would go from 8 to 1 or 9 to 1-ish. So it wasn't the worst, but I would wake up early because I had to take the train in, and I would wake up at 6-ish to take the train. Then I would go teach, and teaching is like, on your feet. You have to be really into it with all the kids to try and control that classroom, and then go straight to the studio to attempt to record my album, which that is a separate story too.
Right.
But then I would go home, and if I just like laid on my couch, didn't do anything, I would be so unproductive the next day, and I would be off my game with the songwriting and trying to get these kids to be really interested in the, the craft of creating music. And then in the studio, I would like have a really hard time trying to get my ideas across.
Right.
And then so last semester, I like totally disregarded everything that I learned in the summer of like, it's really important to take care of yourself because like, to keep yourself going, you have to take care of your needs and your, not just what you want and not just your goals, because having that strong foundation will help you propel for further forward. And I like let myself burn out again. And I really had to take the time to step back and understand what I needed and eliminate some things that were causing me problems or some things that weren't really like necessarily serving me. And focusing on my fitness and stuff was a really good way to help get that foundation of, like solid to have me propel forward.
Right.
So that's been my expedition.
Now,
a lot of trial and error.
Now you're just finishing up school and recording music and everything and getting a degree and all that. How do you want to describe what it's been like to be in school for recording? What kind of stuff do you feel like you've learned there? What kind of stuff did you think you were going to learn? And what are the things about a school environment that you think have been really helpful?
I think, so my expectations for learning, I didn't really have that many. I joined a brand new program, and I was already at college for a year, and then the program came to fruition.
And you're like, oh yeah, that's for me.
Yeah. And I like had ideas of it being a thing. Otherwise, I was going to go into, film and TV, do communications, something like that, and then try and focus in the audio.
Next thing you know, that you'd be standing in front of a mic in front of a house burning.
Yeah, I don't know.
Doing a news announcement
meteorology or like something crazy. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know where I was going to go.
What's the weather?
But then they were like, oh, it's going to be a recording thing with like pop music, and it'll be half in the music school, half in the communications school, so film and TV. And that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, that's really perfect. So my expectations were, I'm going to learn how to record my own stuff. And I don't know how much I care about really getting into it. I just want to learn how to get the technical side to work for me. And then as I was going through the whole, you have to take this elective, this is your coursework, this is your everything, these are your required classes for the major, I kind of realized I did a lot of post-production. I did, music for my first 2 semesters. Then it was a lot of post and live stuff. And then this year, senior year, I kind of got to branch out and do more of what I wanted. And through experiencing a little bit of everything, that was the point of our major too, is kind of choosing your lane of where you want to go and experiencing a little bit of everything so that you are aware of what's out there.
What lane did you feel like was most interesting to you?
I thought that it was going to be live that's how I came in too. I was doing a lot of theater, and I was doing a lot of live band, live sound reinforcement. And then I got into post, and the way that I was in post, I decided that I hated doing sound design editing. I hated editing on Pro Tools, and I hated when I had a teacher like telling me what to do behind me. And so then in all the classroom environments, I would kind of have a creative, more like out of the box perspective. And I made roles of a producer for me in every class because I did not want to do the technical work. And I didn't realize that that was happening until this past, fall semester, because then I could actually start doing the producer roles. And I made my own independent study kind of thing. I was working with TV classes, and I was producing on that aspect. And so, my major is recording arts and production.
Right.
But I didn't know what production meant. I knew of famous producers, going into college. I knew of some people that were famous for that, like George Martin and like the old heads kind of. But I had to learn what that meant now too. And school didn't teach me that. It came out of what I didn't like through school. And the same with like the opportunities that school gave me. I would have never connected with some of the people that I work with now. And I would have never had some experiences that were like pivotal in me figuring out what I wanted to do. And less of like the education, I think it's really important. And I think that, getting educated in something and committing to that and finding out what you like and where you fit, or if you hate it too. I think finding out what you dislike is maybe more important than finding out what you do like, or finding out what you're bad at, or like your pitfalls is probably more important than figuring out what you're good at. Yeah. Because then you can work on it. But definitely production, the lane, because I figured out that I hated the tech. I hated it. Right. I thought I would love it, being alone, sitting, but no, I can't. I'm too people person. I'm too, I zoom out too much.
You don't need to play guitar to sound like a pro. Session guitarist from Native Instruments delivers hundreds of lifelike guitar performances, both electric and acoustic, right inside Contact. Whether you're laying down rockin' electric riffs or warm acoustic beds, you'll get 154 electric guitar patterns and over 250 acoustic guitar grooves for strumming and fingerpicking, all grouped into song-ready presets. Dial in recording quality tone with built-in amps, cabinets, mic modeling, and effects. You can drag and drop MIDI into your tracks effortlessly, then tweak tempo, tuning, and feel to fit your song. And with new session packs on the way, you'll never run out of inspiration. Visit nativeinstruments.com, use the code ROCK10 for 10% off, and bring full guitar performances to your next track. No more blisters on your fingers. Howdy, Rockstars. We're back now for the jam session, a.k.a. the second half of the show. My guest today is Abbie Griffin, joining us here at Ready to Rock Studios. And are you ready to jam?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Definitely.
So now, when I met you at NAMM, you were also there with a very close friend of yours that I think you're making music with. And then also her dad was also there.
Yeah.
But you've been making, so shout out to you guys. And you've been making music now a bunch. So let's talk about that a little bit. Have you formed sort of a band you want to talk about? And then, what is it that you really love about songwriting? Yeah.
Okay. So my band has been really fluctuating. I had
that never happens to anybody.
Yeah, right? That never changes. You never have problems with band members ever. But your interests and the path of things, I think, can really change within, when we were all young too, right. And I was working with a lot of different people and people in my program and other things like that. And then our goals didn't really align. And I had a couple of set bands that I was working with, or we would sit and write together. So we had like, songwriting things and performance things happening through school and outside of school a little bit. And I always find it hard to get a good gel of people, which I mean also is not a unique experience.
Right. In other words, you find somebody that you think you might be able to play with, but then they don't necessarily play well together. Or
they play well together, but then the personalities might have issues.
Right.
Like, it might be like really great vocal pairings, or one person plays bass really well and one person plays guitar really well, and you think like, oh yeah, this is going to go really great. And then one person is like, I am going to shoot for the stars. Like Timothée Chalamet just wanted to, he just said, I am inspired by all the greats and I aspire for greatness. And so there are some people like that. And then there are other people that are like, I'd be fine with playing basement shows for the rest of my life. And then there are other people that are like, I don't ever want to be on stage ever again. Sorry guys, bye. Which is fine. All of that is fine too. Yeah. But kind of figuring out where your goals are, and what I was saying earlier was like figuring out what you're not good at versus what you are good at, and what you want and what you don't want is really important, because
it probably changes
matching
too.
With those people.
Yeah, it changes. It's a different experience when you're
figure
younger. When you're younger, everybody's figuring themselves out. Mm-hmm. You get a little older, and it's like people are sort of familiar with where they're at, and
that's exciting,
people get settled into to a routine. Although that can be very limiting too. And then there's a classic story of people maybe in their 20s embarking on it, and then they start families, and then that changes everything. And so then there might be somebody who's in the band who's ready to go off and really hit the road, and somebody else who's like ready to settle down.
Or like somebody starting a new job and then can't practice at the same time that practice used to be.
Right.
Then you're like, well, maybe if you didn't pick up that thing, then we could have been at the gig that I planned 3 months ago.
The pizzas will deliver themselves.
yeah, right. Or like exactly.
Well, and that's the beauty of, gig economy and, driving Uber and doing the food deliveries and stuff like that, is it gives everybody that flexibility to work when they want to work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I really encourage rock stars who are thinking about, maybe at that stage of trying to figure out how am I going to do the combination of the studio stuff, the music stuff, and work, take advantage of those apps.
Yeah.
Now, I'm saying that I didn't quite do that because they didn't exist when I was coming up, but I did deliver pizzas, and that gave me a bit of flexibility.
Well, like I wait tables, and so if it's on, not the craziest night of the week, I make the most money waiting tables on Friday, Saturday, which is usually gig days too. Right. But if I can do a workaround and work the other nights of the week, I still pretty much make the same. And then I have enough time. Or if I work the day shift, it'll be like 11 to 4, and then my gig starts at 7. Perfect timing.
If you're one of those people that can go to bed late after a gig and still get up early for the coffee shop.
Oh, I did that too. Oh, that was hard. Getting up for like 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I had an intern in the studio, Mark Primo, shout out to you, Mark, who he had that morning routine at Starbucks for a long time. But of course, he also liked it because Starbucks was one of those places that would give you, at that time, they'd give you health insurance too, or something like that.
Yeah, my job does that too.
So now talk about songwriting. Now, what do you love about songwriting? I know you were influenced by Joni Mitchell.
Yeah.
Like, who inspires you in music and songwriting? Because and I just want to preface this by saying, there's the mood and the tone of music that we like too. But at some point, if you get interested in songs, you become really interested in like what a song is and what goes into the words of a song and stuff like that. So what does that all mean to you, and what gets you excited about it?
So for me, like, I'll start with my inspirations. Joni Mitchell for sure, but that's kind of a more recent one, actually. I was like, I guess, raised on a lot of Beatles. Probably everybody says that, but it's so true. Like, both of my grandparents, Beatles, diehard fans. And my first album I ever had on CD was the White Album. And then I had one day that it broke, the disc 2 broke, and it was my worst nightmare. I cried. It was so sad. And And Michael Jackson, a lot of my mom's lucky number is 8, and that's how many Grammys he won in 1984. I think she said, depending on how many Grammys he wins, that's going to be my lucky number, and then it's 8. And so that's, Beatles is for a lot of lyrical stuff in their earlier things, like, the Meet the Beatles or White or Rubber Soul, that kind of vibe. I also very much enjoy Abbey Road too, which, I'm Abbie, and I have the Abbey Road poster hanging in my room at home. So yeah, Beatles, Michael Jackson, a lot of Elvis too. And that's my main origins kind of.
Now those are all male singers. Well, Joni Mitchell's female singer.
But then if I go and think about my newer kind of rebirth, because I feel as though my songwriting can be broken up into sections of when I was just learning, starting out, I was 12, whatever, with my brand new ukulele, and then my
sometimes
electric guitar.
We start with songs that are just learnable, right?
Yeah, and I would learn Taylor Swift songs, and because they were C, G, A minor, D, or whatever the basic 4 chords that she used in, 60% of her songs of the Fearless album. That was one of my biggest inspirations. And some people are, haters, but I think as a little girl growing up in a farmish town, I was like, she sees me, she knows me.
Right.
So starting out was a ton of Taylor Swift. And
let me ask you that.
Yeah.
What do you think it is about what she does in those songs that hits the mark just right, that you as a girl growing up in a farm felt like she sees me, she hears me? Well, what is it about that? Because that's a kind of an important thing, right?
Yeah. For me personally, she has her song 15, and it's about her going to high school for the first time and learning new things. But that song came out when I was in 2nd grade, but her best friend's name is Abigail. And that was one of the first songs I ever heard by her. And I was like, she's literally speaking to me. And then once I, maybe 2 years older than that, 4th grade or whatever, on my iPod shuffle, green little guy, I think her rawness in her kind of heartbreak, loneliness vibe was really speaking to me as, a little girl on a farm. She has a couple of songs that are very wistful and very yearning, and I was bored a lot. And somebody has a quote, I forget who said it, but she's every 13-year-old girl's best friend when they're going throughout, a breakup, or, you belong with me. I felt that so hard, before I had crushes or anything. I was like, oh man, that's kind of how I feel about wanting to be everybody's friend. And I was a little bit of the weird girl too. I was a little off kilter. But I think everybody feels like that, or majority of people feel like that in their own way.
I still feel like it.
Yeah, I definitely still feel like that. I always feel weird girl vibes all the time. Everyone's like, you're so weird. Well, one of my lunch ladies when I was growing up, her nickname for me was Abby Normal. And so on the playground,
I just used that
Abby
quote
Normal.
on the podcast recently. Yeah. Do you know what it's from?
Yeah.
Young Frankenstein. Yeah, it's great.
What kind of brain did you put in there? Abby something.
Abby Normal.
Yeah, exactly. So I think she, even in her interviews and stuff, always felt a little off and a little weird. And she just wrote that in her songs. And I think that some people don't like them because they're not necessarily too complex, at least her older things, like, her debut album, her Fearless album, Speak Now or whatever. They're very plain and simple. She's telling a story, how it happened to her, and literally how it made her feel. And I think that's the basis of all songwriting, is how it happened, telling the story, how it made you feel, and then from that, you release that or perform it or whatever. And that's exactly what the audience is going to tell you and what the audience is going to feel. They're going to follow that story in their brain of something that resonates, like a little part of them that resonates with that. and how that experience made them feel, it's not going to be the same experience that the writer had. It's not going to be the same feeling that the writer had. But
is this sort of to the point of, show don't tell?
Mm-hmm. I think
where you when you describe and show something in a song lyric, then it evokes an image and then they write their own version of it in their head.
I really think that that's important, but show don't tell was always a little weird for me because I was like, well, I want to tell them about my experience. I want to tell them about my life. And
like, what do you think of when you think of that? Are there example lyrics that ever come to mind?
Well, if we're going on the Taylor Swift thing, I think it's a really good, easy baseline to think about songwriting is like the song 15 is the line with Abigail. Like, you sit in class next to a redhead named Abigail and soon enough you're best friends, laughing at the other girls who think they're so cool. We'll get out of here as soon as we can. And that song is literally linear talking about her story, and it's telling the audience, but it's the song that resonated with me the most. And then there's songs like, I don't know, if we're going on Her or like a Beatles song, I think those are very plain and simple as well. Like, drive my car, like, baby, you can drive my car, I guess I'm going to be a star. Baby, you can drive my car, and maybe I love you. And that's it. And everyone's like, maybe you can drive,
Yeah.
However, you get into things that are, I think that's a lot of telling and less showing. And I think showing can be in the way of you're showing them the things that you went through, and showing the story because of your describing what happened. And like, for me, when I was hearing that Taylor Swift song, I was thinking, oh, well, I'm the Abigail. Who am I the Abigail of? What story is this going to be for me? Oh, I want to have, those experiences like that when I was growing up. I was like, I want to be like that. Like, I want to choose my own kind of thing. And then I think about songs that are like based on poetry, or even for my own songs, I composed the music for Two-Headed Calf, and it's based on a poem by Laura Gilpin. And it's completely poetry. All of the lyrics, they're none of mine. But that song is telling a story about how the calf was born with two heads and then died the night that they were born.
And is that on Live from Onie's house?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Rockstars, we have that link in the show notes. So if you want to check out the music Abbie's making, she's got a great sounding voice.
Thanks.
Nice acoustic guitars. It's a very simple thing. It sounds like it was in the moment.
Well, that we can go into that too, of how I recorded too.
Sure, if you want. Tell us.
But for like,
isn't one of the songs in there just a voice memo?
Yeah, it is literally. But for songwriting, there's a poetry aspect, and so that poem, I was inspired by that because I saw somebody make a TikTok or something about it, and they were like really analyzing the words because I had read the poem in high school, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I was always into Shakespeare, and that's what I do too, to get inspiration and to kind of take a break from listening to music.
Can you quote a Shakespeare line right now?
To be or not to be.
There you go. Easy one.
But there's a sonnet too that I was inspired by for one of my other songs that isn't out yet. But I sit and read a lot of poetry, and I think that's a lot of showing, not telling. Shakespeare, some people might disagree with that he tells a lot, but it's because of his plays.
Well, it's because of the way he says stuff. He said, what is it? What's the idea? I'm going to mess this up, but if music be the food of love, then play on, that the appetite in surfeiting may so sicken and die.
Yes.
What a line. Right?
Yeah, wow.
That's probably the only one I can do. It was off the top of my head. I haven't said that in a while. iZotope is truly amazing for mixing and mastering your music. Check out the new iZotope Velvet plugin, featuring intelligent sibilance learn de-essing that automatically detects harsh frequencies, dynamic tone shaping with lift and tame controls, and transparent declick to clean up mouth noises, pops, and clicks, all in one easy plugin for polished professional vocals. And now Ozone 11 takes your mastering game even further further with the new Clarity module for adaptive spectral enhancement, upward compression in the maximizer for increased punch without losing dynamics, and stem focus to process individual elements like vocals or drums with surgical precision. Use the code ROCK10 to get 10% off Velvet, Ozone, or any Fantastic plugin at iZotope.com.
But a lot of his stuff was meant to be performed and was meant to be stage productions. And whereas his sonnets are a little more poetry based, a little more rhymey, they've got the iambic pentameter, but like for Two-Headed Calf, it's telling you the story of the two-headed calf, but really it's showing the experience of the scarcity and importance of life as it is. And there's a whole different feeling that comes from the words. The words are about, the calf spending its life with its mother, and its life was, fleeting. It's one day or, a morning and a night. Or it was born in the night and then, died before the dawn. And there's something beautiful about the showing ability and how those lyrics about a literal farm animal can resonate with somebody and be like, oh, this story reminds me of this one day, or it reminds me of my grandpa, or it reminds me of the hardships that I've had to go through as like being a weird girl. But it's a story about a farm animal. So show not tell, to me, I kind of almost disagree with it, because I think you can show a lot by telling somebody something.
Right, but so you use the Taylor Swift verse as an example, and maybe we can review that again, but it's kind of a version of showing, right? It doesn't, did she say in the verse, this is the way you're supposed to feel?
I think that's where people get confused too.
Right.
No, not at all. I think telling the audience how they're supposed to feel, who are you to tell?
Right.
There's this thing that my acting for the screen teacher, she used a lot of like, well, this is going a little off the path, but like Uta Hagen, and you're not supposed to have in the stage directions, the actor's going to feel like blank. The line and getting into character is going to tell you how the actor would, how your character would react to something like that. Like acting is reacting. And I think in songwriting, it's the exact same thing. If you want your audience to resonate, I think you've got to like not put the feelings in the stage directions. So not putting the, I felt sad today kind of song.
Unless you're being ironic.
Unless you're like Weird Al or like somebody. But I think leaving I struggle a lot with trying to find the root of the meaning as a songwriter of other songs. And I have arguments all the time about like what songs mean, but really it means something unique to everybody. If it resonates with you in a certain way, it does. But I think as a writer, I get kind of intellectual about certain songs, and I'm like, I want to know the real one.
And how are you? Are you good with words? Do you sort of know all the words to songs? I mean, you just quoted Taylor Swift, so that to me is something I've really noticed. There's a difference. I've known, particularly with women, I've known people who are great at knowing what the words are, and for me, I'm like, what are the words to that song?
Exactly.
And I discover them at the. Sometimes I'll produce a record and I get to the end of the record and I'm like, oh, those are now I get it.
I just had an interview with Pat Metheny, and I just talked with him about that, and he said when he was working with Joni Mitchell, he was like, she's all about her lyrics, but honestly, when I was playing guitar on her tracks, I had no idea what she was saying. And so some people are talking about the sonic elements and phrasing and how that affects them emotionally. And I think other people, like, if you compare Pat versus Joni, Joni is like going to talk about California, going to talk about her relationships, like same as Taylor Swift. They're going to talk about, stories and things that happen to them. Meanwhile, like Pat Metheny can play guitar on the track, not know anything what's happening, but know exactly how it makes him feel. And that's a little bit of the show and tell aspect, that push and pull. Musically, I think you can show a lot. Yeah. And I think there are ways of telling things musically by using like your, 1-4-5, go through the motions of of a sad song and you're going to use minor chords, or you could leave that up to interpretation of, your lyrics are going to be sweet and your music is going to be minor, and then it's up to the audience which meaning they take from it.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So let's rewind a sec. You just said I just had a interview with Pat Metheny.
Yeah.
Does that mean you were listening to one, or did you get a chance to talk to him?
No, I got a chance to sit down with him.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell us all about that.
So I don't know where it's going to be posted. We got to figure out somewhere.
Okay. Well, keep it out of context.
Yeah. So I got a chance to sit down with him, and I had a lot of questions for him that were like, from the production, and they wanted to know some specific things about like his opinions on stuff. But I really wanted to know how, things affected him on a creative and emotional aspect, because he had been talking, at my school.
That's awesome.
And he was at like a immersive residency program thing. So he was doing a lot of talking about chords and technique. And I wanted to know his philosophies more. And so I got a chance to sit down and talk to him, and he brought new perspectives to certain things that I had not even thought about. And one of the things that resonated with me the most was he talked about kind of sticking to his guns and being the most himself from day one. And he was talking about how he sees his musical journey as a storybook, and each album as a chapter. And like that chapter can't really ever be edited again if he were to go back, because he's constantly changing, but it'll all still be in that same book, and it's still him. And he's been him from day one. And he told me a story of how once he released his very first album, he was like, all right, okay, this only sold 800 copies.
Was that American Garage? Do you know?
I think.
I mean, you might. I don't know if you know.
I can't
his
remember.
Whole discography very well.
It was.
I'll look it up while we're chatting.
But he talked about it, and he was so disappointed. He was like, "All right, I guess we're gonna go on to the next one. We're gonna see what else I can do. I think I have to do something different. Maybe, but." He really just felt confident that he put it out. He was like, all right, it is what it is. A radical acceptance. And that's what my therapist says too. But I'm going to radically accept that it just only sold 800. And then he said 15 years later, people were coming to him after he had released, 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever more albums. And he saw that it went, gold, and they resonated with it like crazy. People would come up to him after shows and be like, I remember when you put out that first album, and that like changed my life. And he told me when he looked back and it only made 800 copies, how much that didn't matter, because as long as it resonated with somebody, that was the point.
That's
and
how this
then he told me to
feels sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he told me to like stick to what makes you and being yourself, and it'll like be fruitful as long as you stick with that. Like if you're constantly changing and pandering towards other people's ideals or anything, you're never really gonna find your fit, because you'll be floundering a little bit. But he told me too, I was like, I have less than 1,000 streams on every single song that I released, and I released like 6 of them. And I felt really discouraged, or in my recording process, like I didn't even release anything. And my mom was like, oh, those songs are so good, got to put them out. And they didn't really resonate with me.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom.
Moms are the best.
Yeah. She was like, oh, why don't you just release that song like already? And I'm like, you don't get it.
She doesn't sound like that.
Yeah, she does sound like she sounds just like me, actually. But he said, well, just stick with it, because you don't know if in 15 years it's going to go gold, and you're going to have people coming up to you liking that album more than your most recent one. You have no idea.
So this says his first one was 1978 Pat Metheny Group. Second one was American Garage. Mm-hmm. When I was in high school, he was playing in Providence, Rhode Island. So I had my grandmother's old conversion van, and I filled it with my
Yes.
friends from high school.
Yeah.
We drove down there for a night
That's
and saw the
awesome.
Song X tour, which was really wild, really wild. They had like 2 of everything.
Yeah.
Ornette Coleman was playing with him.
That's awesome. And he told me, he was like, oh yeah, you know, like Chick Corea, Herbie Hancock. He just played with so many greats. And I asked him a question about if that really influenced you and your further works. He was like, honestly, I think it influenced those works, and I think I'm still me. And that was really interesting to me. And he was like, I think I look back and I see a lot of growth from myself, but it's still all very me. And I don't think I ever really changed fundamentally who I am as a person because of who I've met. But I think that, you know, emotionally, it has influenced my journey. But he was like, he had just such a unique thing. He was like, I know I'm just always me all the time. This is just how I am. This is how I play. This is what I've got to do. And I'm going to constantly, you know, evolve and create and improve. But it's going to be me concretely all the time.
Yeah.
And I struggled so much with that. And then I released this last project, and it was like, you know, if I could talk a little bit about that,
Sure.
it was me and my engineer, I sent him a voice memo, and it was of me, my grandma, and my dad singing and playing one of the songs that my grandpa wrote out on our front porch, on my grandma's front porch. And he was like, you have to record this. I don't know, maybe do I record it? Blah, blah, blah. I don't know if it's the greatest song, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
He was like, no, we're sitting down and recording it. So we sat down on just right before, 2 days before Christmas, on that Sunday before December 2024. And we sat down for like 6 hours and recorded 5 or 4 songs. And then we sat down the next week and recorded, you know, 2 more. And then I had a voice memo of a song that my grandpa just wrote. But we sat down and we captured everything with Mix Pre 6 in my grandma's living room. And my whole family was around me setting up for Christmas and cleaning, and they were eating, and there was like laughing and talking and everything. Everybody was around. And we would have, all right, everybody quiet for 4 minutes as we're going to record this song. And then you can go back to chatting and yapping and whatever.
That's great.
And we did multiple takes of stuff, but it was really super live and super in the moment, very as is. We're not going to edit anything. We're going to do barely any processing. We're going to put it together very, very live, very, very natural, organic sounding. And I wanted it to live in its own moment.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when Pat said it's a storybook and a chapter, that to me was the best chapter I could have put out as my first one, because it was like my family origins, my everything, but it was so lived in that moment and like a little pocket in time.
Yeah. And this, so the beauty of that, so some things that come to mind. One is the wonderfulness about how when you're young and you do recordings and sessions, they represent such a big chunk of your experience. Yeah. You know, when you get like after you do many, you know, they occupy maybe smaller parts of the big picture. I do feel
like a little baby when I was like, this is my first ever project.
But it's great. But then also, like, you know, to your point, it's like, even if you could have done a better version later, you can't go back and get that and have that moment again. So that's why it's really nice to capture moments and just do things when it's the time, you know. And the number, you can always do another record.
I had like divine timing or something, because the day that released, my grandmother passed away.
Oh, wow.
And she sang on the title track of
aren't you so
that
glad?
Song. And my whole family had that to listen to and to process, and to, while we were, you know, grieving from that, and it's still really hard now, but like if I hadn't done that, I would have never had anything. Or she was an artist, and she had like a recording contract kind of thing. She had a duo when she was younger, and it was like when she was in college, like my age, 22-ish. And then like her partner left, and then it was a whole big drama thing, and then she moved to New Jersey and never really did music again besides in church and for, singing odds and ends here and there, and she never got to release anything. And so if I didn't sit down and just make it happen right then and there, commit to that being a moment, she never would have released anything. And she released her first ever song 10 hours before she passed away.
Wow.
And so
that's very poignant.
I had no idea that it was gonna be timing like that. I had no plan. We had no idea. She was 72, and we had no idea that it was gonna things were gonna take a turn for the worse or whatever. But if I hadn't done that, you could never ever go back. You can't, I think with digital, the undo button, there isn't a life undo button, and taking things in stride, as they come to you, is really important. And I learned, my thing about my life is I learned everything the hard way, because I have to go through it. I kind of have to suffer all the time, and I'm not, woe is me about it, but I do have to do things I've got to do it and experience it. People can't tell me. I won't listen. I've got to do it and live it. And that was the biggest experience that I could have had in that way of doing things now. And no matter the quality, I was my song Mother was not my greatest performance, but I talked with my engineer and I said, we have to put this out, because, I wrote it about her when I found out she had breast cancer one whole year before. And that's not even what she passed from. I sang it in her kitchen to her after going into the city as she got treatment for it. And that's the day that she found out. And I was so that story behind it has to be on this album, or Live from Onie's house we sat there. It was the last time before, it was that time my family was together. On Christmas, my family was together. And then the week that she passed, my family was together.
Well, that's the thing about, as we get older too, families, family gatherings. Yeah. They say it's, weddings and funerals.
Yeah, unfortunately. But if we hadn't created that, it would have never.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. Are you ready to launch your career in the audio or entertainment business? SAE Institute Nashville, right here in the heart of Music Row, offers hands-on programs to prepare you for the industry. From studio production and live sound to audio for film and a whole lot more. You'll learn by doing, working with professional-grade gear alongside experienced industry pros. If you're more into the business side of entertainment, SAE's Entertainment Business Program teaches essential basics like contracts and promotion to help you navigate the industry. With diploma, associate, or bachelor's degrees, there's a path for everyone. Plus, Career Services supports graduates as they take the next step. Want to see it for yourself? Immerse yourself in Nashville's exciting music scene and book a tour today at nashville.sae.edu or call 615-244-5848. So to that point too, let's talk about the songwriting some more too.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
What do you feel like is your daily songwriting routine? Where do you find inspiration for what you want to write about?
From anywhere. I feel like a lot of people say that, but from things that make me feel a specific way, or any way that makes me feel strongly. Mm-hmm. So if I see, the light just streaming through the windows at the exact perfect shade of color through with a pattern, that'll inspire me to write a little thing in my notes app.
What is the notes app? Is it like a phone thing?
Literally.
I see you got your phone right there
on my iPhone. I've got
So you just jot down an idea for something, and then so now you have.
I title my notes song
and
idea.
It's great, and it's a great it's a common way to capture things. But then the next part of the stage is but then you have to go back through the stuff. If you just have a collection of stuff and you never go back through it, right?
Sometimes I never go back through it.
What do you want to say about that? What works for you or doesn't work, or where do you beat yourself up? All that stuff, all this.
So sometimes I have an idea, and I'm last week I was practicing for my guitar concert, and then I made a wrong note, and I made a weird riff, and I kept repeating it, and I had stuff to do that day.
What's your guitar concert?
It was strings and piano or a guitar, classical night. And it was literally, I performed on a Wednesday with, in the concert hall at my college.
This is like a classical piece you had to learn in a traditional style?
It was gonna be. And then my guitar lessons usually are just therapy sessions, and I show him my songs, and he was like, "You're going to perform that. Don't even work on whatever we were just working on. You're going to perform that." And so I was practicing an original, and then it sparked a different original based on the riff. And then I was supposed to go and do my work, and I have a problem with doing music instead of doing work. That's kind of what I'm doing right now.
Right.
Which is awesome. It's my favorite thing to do, not do work and do music instead.
I like doing music so much more than I like doing work.
So much better.
And I get caught thinking I got to do all this work so I can do the music, and I feel like sometimes that's false thinking.
Yeah. So I sat down, canceled whatever I had, and for the next 2 hours I sat and wrote the whole song start to finish. And I'm going to go back and edit it, but the most recent songs have been sit down. I feel like a conduit for some kind of emotion is speaking to me through this guitar riff, through the way the window looks, through where I am right now. And if I don't get it out, I'm never going to again. And, Paul McCartney has the thing about he, woke up in the middle of the night and writes some stuff that he was imagining in his brain. Or there's so many stories of you're writing on a diner napkin. And there's a lot of things like that I do with my notes app, and they never become anything. Or I have those kind of inspiration moments, and you shouldn't wait for inspiration to strike, but I keep the log of those song ideas so that when I'm in a mood to sit down, or I have the time, or I book out time like in my schedule to sit down and go back through and write things. Or if I have a chorus, I'll go back through my little...
Just pick one of them.
Yeah, my dad calls them seeds, song seeds. Yeah. And I'll see what kind of resonates with that emotion or that feeling. Or I have a chord progression that I really like, and I'm like, let's see if something can come of it.
Let's stick with the seeds analogy, right?
Yeah.
So there's song seeds. So you go through and it's like when you plant 6 seeds and then you pluck all the ones that didn't grow very much, toss them, and just go with the ones that are looking pretty good.
Yeah. And some of them I'll leave. Like most of them I just leave as they are. And some will be 2 sentences of like something weird. And I can use that as the start to a chorus, or I'll repeat that, and then it'll become its own song. Or I'll have moments where I sit down, I have a chord progression, and I have a way that the song is going to go. And then I'm searching through all my seeds to see what I can plug into the song. And that's a little more granular, a little more intellectual than like a inspiration hits moment.
Do you feel like there's an obligation to always use and plug in what's already been started, or do you feel like it's easy for you to look at something that's in the song seeds notes, think, oh, I'm going to work on this, but then next thing you know, you're just writing new stuff? Is that tricky sometimes?
Yeah. A lot of the time I'll take a seed, and I have, my Moleskine kind of songbook. And I'll take a seed, write out that seed on one side, and do a free write, kind of any words that come out, stream of consciousness vibe, and I'll have the chord progression and the structure on the other side, and I'll see what works. But it all comes from that one seed. And then if I'm getting really stuck, I'll go back through those, either that free write or other stuff that I've written in the past, other seeds, and mix and match. And then free write out of that.
Yeah.
Or sometimes it'll be like full pieces of poetry that I write in my notes. So
you mentioned having a Moleskine notebook. So a couple of thoughts come to mind. One is the Moleskine notebook's always the one that costs like 3 times as much as the cheap, composition book sitting right next to it.
Yeah.
But maybe, people who do this often and well seem to get stuff like that. And maybe there's something about like the preciousness of it that makes it like you're doing something that's valuable.
One of them has my name on it from an ex-boyfriend many years ago, but that's like the emotion is so fueled in that thing.
Right.
From like a lot of different angles, from in the relationship and then out of it. But I think I'm a very tactile person, and I think it can depend too. Some people just write in their notes app only. But I feel as though writing with my like leathery book with thicker pages, with a black Dixon Ticonderoga pencil. Thanks, Dad. No, you've got to upgrade. You've got to upgrade because the Dixon Ticonderoga so smooth.
Wait, does mine say Amazon Special or something?
Is this Amazon Basics? But having it's like a ritual kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I've been doing a lot of rituals like my yoga stuff, but sitting down and
To that point, what makes a lot of sense to me now, just thinking about it, because I'm just going to steal all your good ideas on this.
You
That's
should.
what I do. That's what I do.
Please do that because it's like.
So the app on the phone is perfect because in the moment that the thing happens, the seed idea, that's all you have with you. So why not use it and put it in there?
Very
convenient. But in the moment when you're sitting down to work on stuff, it's an intentional moment. So that like in that moment, we know that we're going to be doing it, so it's not hard for us to grab the notebook and the pencil and have everything with us.
Well, then
and then you've got
notebook,
the two open.
The pencil, the page, both pages open, and the phone, and other seeds. Like I also am a lover of Post-it notes too. And that'll be any pen, any pencil, any notebook, any whatever seed is somewhere. Right. And I lose track of a lot of them because
don't serial killers and like, like crack detectives also love Post-it notes.
Yes. No, literally. Yeah, exactly. Well, songwriters, serial killers, detectives, all a little crazy, I think. Anyone who does music for a living, I
office
think
people. No, it's great.
Office Max.
So that's cool. So then what about the, you get into writing something and it's easy to get, like I would pick up the guitar and for a long time I'd play the first chords would be like an A and a D. And I'm like, I got to play something different on the guitar. So how do you stir things up and deconstruct your own songs?
Okay. My favorite thing to do is weird tuning. Well, and then Joni Mitchell says, if you're struggling in one art form, you have to go take a break from that art and do another form of art, something else. And so she did a lot of painting. And it can be different instruments you pick up. And then you learn something new on the drums and you might have a better insight into something else that you're going to play on guitar. Or for me, my go-to is different tuning. I have a lot of songs in drop D, open D. I love open D. And I've been doing like open C and another tuning that is like almost every single string is C besides one, I think, is a G.
Do you remember to tell yourself what the tuning is when you record it? Or do you come back later and you're like, what in the hell was I doing?
Most of the time it's a what in the hell am I doing? But sometimes like if it's a sit down right moment, like I also have a candle that's inspiration. It's a very specific scent. So I've Pavloved myself into whenever that candle is lit, I feel like I really want to write a song.
Good call.
Yeah. There's a lot of philosophical, psychological things that I do for myself. But I try and write down as much as possible. Or for experimenting on new stuff, if I'm feeling stuck in a guitar riff, a lot of the time I will listen to songs that are similar and chord progression or anything. And I'm like, oh, is that a suspended chord? Oh, is that what different voicing can I use up the neck that's maybe different? Or is there a riff somewhere that sort of fits? And I do a lot of voice memo recording. My voice memos on my phone app is like 49 gigabytes.
Do you like the new feature where you can overdub on your voice memo app?
So I haven't updated my iOS yet, but I heard of that feature and I freaked out because so what I do is I play the riff or the chords or whatever over and over and over and over again and see what else can be done with it. Or I listen to that thing only. And like, I don't have a lot of listening minutes on Spotify because I listen to so many of my voice memos on repeat. And I think overlaying things like playing a second guitar part over your first might change that first one, or you might find a different chord voicing that you could use. And I think it's a lot of listening and experimenting and doing things on repeat too. Yeah.
And plus it gives you the ability to double a vocal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and the voice memo, it's literally
or like playing guitar and then vocal over top.
Track 1 and track 2, so it's not tons. But like doing the vocal over it, I just did one for just today or yesterday. I did it. It was my stepdad's birthday, so I sang "Happy Birthday" and then I sent it to my brother. Then he put an overdub on it, and now I'm sending that to my sister so she can put a harmony on it.
Yes,
because we're in 3 different places, and we'll send it to him.
Yeah, I used to do like the export the voice memo to the GarageBand app, and then repeat, and then would sing. Oh, it was like
I know it gets too
hard.
complicated. I tried that stuff too.
Yeah,
and it's like
it's
it just
so
drives
hard.
you bananas.
And I don't want to get out my whole interface, but now that feature is really great. Because before I would literally be listening to it on repeat and wish I could record.
Well, and the other thing that it does, I believe, is it integrates now this whole STEM technology.
Yeah.
So basically, because you don't have to use headphones, so you're singing along to the speaker recording, speaker off your iPhone, and it's recording your voice, and it's recording the bleed of the guitar coming back through. But it knows, then it
to isolate.
stem extracts and isolates the voice so that it doesn't sound like a total disaster.
I have to upgrade my phone to do it. I've done it on one of my friends' phones too, and mind blown. But I know that that's going to be so useful.
It'll be interesting to see in what ways people come up with like nobody ever thought of that. I can't believe that's what you came up with. Super brilliant. So let's stay on that. So discuss the rapid change and difference of music technology with AI and the traditional versus modern description of what a producer does. So that's a long-winded question there.
Yeah.
But basically, we're surrounded by so many cool new tools that are coming along. That stem extractor one is a great example.
I've used that a lot.
Well, it gets presented as if you're going to pull the vocal out of something and then listen to the vocal and go, wow, that's just the vocal. And then, you might hear it and be like, oh, that doesn't quite sound like a real recording of the voice. Then you get stuck. I feel like it's easy to get stuck on being critical of the wrong aspect of a new tool, not realizing that it can be incredibly useful for something else.
Yeah.
For example, like in a voice memo and vocal demo, I put on the vocal stem feature and remove the guitar and it leaves just the voice, or remove the voice and leave just the guitar. And it was like, wow, that really works well for part of the, particularly for pre-production processes, for songwriting, things like that. So, what kind of stuff gets you really excited right now?
I have had a lot of experience using that feature in the opposite way, in the post-production. So I did some clips of editing together like a sizzle-ish reel of Roseanne Cash. And I took out some of her interview things, and she has some really great quotes that were overlaid with one of her songs of acoustic guitar in the background or drums in the background. And I did a lot of, on Serato Pro has stem separators. And so I did that for vocals, and I took out the speech from the guitar, and there was some overlap, but if I had another guitar track playing underneath, it was really disguised, and that was awesome to work with.
So you were left with the music without the voice talking.
The other way around. I was left with the voice talking without the music underneath.
In the background, which you didn't need.
And
in that moment.
that was exactly perfect for what I needed. So I want to see how I can work with that in the songwriting way. I haven't really tried it yet, but I think you're giving me inspo to do that.
Inspo, I love it. I love new terminology.
Some inspo.
Rockstars, that probably means inspiration.
It does mean inspiration.
For those of you that aren't 22.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what other kind of tools? I mean, another common discussion of AI is things that make the music for you. Or then people, inevitably somebody comes along and says, oh, I want AI to do my laundry and mow the lawn, not make my creative arts for me.
Yeah.
And it's an easy one that's an easy punch to pull, I think.
Yeah.
And as I think about it more, I'm like, but if you want to focus on the creative side, you can use these tools to help you do the laundry and the lawn mowing that you didn't want to do, or vice versa. Maybe there's somebody out there who's great at the laundry and the lawn mowing and doesn't, and the creative part is the part they don't want to do. So anyways, this is my thought on it.
I think AI should be used as a tool the most to help the creative process.
Yeah.
I think there is some interest in, in using AI for a creative thing, like, the AI art. Have you seen like visual? I think that can be really cool, and I think that can be like a fun expression. But I think a lot of the time that kind of stuff takes away from the artists who, really dedicate time to developing their craft and put in the 10,000 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That I think really is irreplaceable with AI. I really don't think that someone should be able to like make money off of using it as a creative tool, like, putting in a prompt. Like,
right.
I think that there's a lot of things about creating art with AI that you have to be really like articulate about what you want.
Right.
Going in, like if you've used ChatGPT, like, well, I have with college, and definitely not answers for stuff. But you have to be very specific on what you want. And I think there's a skill in that.
Don't worry, this will come out after you receive your diploma.
Please. Yeah, hopefully. But I think there's a lot of things that you can use for tools, especially in post-production and especially in music recording and editing. There's a lot of AI tools, and there's a lot of things for dialogue I've used the most for the cancellation, the stem separating. And that has been so helpful in the pursuit of a creative project. And really using AI as a tool, generative or not AI, I think.
Are you recording your own music or other people's music in your studio, but you're having trouble figuring out how to get your mixes to sound great? Do they sound weak and distant or lack punch and clarity? Well, I've got a gift for you to help you take your mixes from sounding like basement demos to sounding a lot more like professional mixes. And it's my free course called Mix Master Bundle. This course will show you how to get pro-sounding mixes from your home studio with free and stock plugins in Pro Tools. And the best part is, these mixing techniques will work for you in any DAW, whether you're in Logic, Cubase, PreSonus Studio One, Reaper, or anything you can think of. Are you ready to make your best record ever? Then go to mixmasterbundle.com to get started for free now, and you can find the clickable link in the show notes of this episode. Well, I think it's easy to use the example of, somebody put in their 10,000 hours and now somebody, an AI thing comes along and steals it from them. So I don't think it exactly does that.
No, I don't think so either.
I think it just evokes something that, feels like that thing we want in a lot of situations. And B, the next question that comes to mind is why doesn't the artist go use the AI as part of their tool set? Unless they just don't want to. And if you don't want to, if you want to do everything with a paintbrush and paint and that's not your thing, then that's fine. Go do that.
Well, like even in Photoshop, I've used the AI generative fill for creating different backgrounds on things, and it's been really helpful for stuff like that.
Right.
But I know what I want. I know the vision, and I know what I want it to look like. I want to know the feeling that it evokes. I want to know that kind of energy, and I think that is where the AI, it's not going to steal our jobs. I really don't think so. Maybe, but I don't think it's like a doom terrorizing the robots are taking over thing. I think it is supplemental.
Right.
And I think with the feeling and the artist putting in their 10,000 hours, they have to have the insight and wisdom to know what they want. And so putting in the prompt or using the AI in their tool set to get to that destination, I think you still have to have the skills to know what it is that you want. That's the whole thing about the producer thing. And to integrate that too is the producer, you have to put together all the puzzle pieces to find that end result of that collaborative goal of what you want. And I think that's how an artist or someone who's using AI can use it in conjunction with the things that they already know about. And even my production stuff, if I can't play the drums the right way, I'll bring in somebody else to do it for me, and that their intelligence and their wisdom about that instrument with my prompts of saying, oh, can you do 16ths on the hat, and then give it a 60s whatever surf rock kind of vibe, but they'll then create that of their own. I think that's the exact same as using AI in the creative process.
Right. Well, I mean, you have also ever-changing landscape of technology. I mean, it's like, if you focus entirely on one chapter of technology and that becomes your thing, and then the tech inevitably,
It'll always change, yeah.
The world keeps moving without us. So it's like, it's always up to us to adapt and change and try and like look forward and if we don't want to do certain things, figure out how to focus on the things we do want to do and make them work.
Exactly.
And things come around in cycles too. We were talking about, the Mackie mixer earlier. And, the idea of analog tape, and then along comes the home studio and digital. And then, analog tape starts coming back again. And you've got Chris Mara with Welcome to 1979, who very intentionally built a studio in Nashville. He was like, I'm just going to really stay focused on, a snapshot of 1979 and make that the thing. And he's doing it very well.
And there's a place for that.
Right. And then vinyl records, if your focus was all vinyl and then along comes digital and they make CDs of the vinyl and you're just like,
and now
easy to
people
say.
go shopping for like, oh, I have the coveted LP of whatever favorite artist. Like it's like a aesthetic trend thing.
Right.
But for so long it was obsolete.
So to me, like you, it's much more interesting to think about, the new tools that are coming and how to still be creative with them because, we still bring what we want. It's all about that process. So what kind of tools do you think of now? Like which ones are you exploring and have you found interesting as far as making music?
I
mean, you mentioned the stems and ChatGPT.
Yeah. And
do you know people that are using the Suno AI and the Music Maker ones to actually help them make music?
No. I guess in my circles or whatever, people are leaning more and more towards older kinds of technology.
Right.
And maybe it's just because of like, I guess how old I am. People are like rediscovering the things that have been around for forever.
Yeah. What do you think of when you say that?
Like, me and my friend group have a real like fascination with tape and tape heads and the tape saturation and how it sounds. And we are all like in love with that sound and of how it works and the functionality and everything.
Do you find plug-in versions of tape fascinating?
Yeah.
Or
I think there are some that are like cool. I haven't really used many. I've been focusing on trying to get the analog sound like from the source really good. But I think in searching for, there's some Waves plugins that are pretty good for, there's the one, it has like, it changes the tape, what it looks like.
Tape formulation
and you can pick,
or whatever.
yeah. And that one's really cool. I used that one most recently in my mixing
Is it the J37, the Abbey Road one? Maybe?
Yeah, I think so. There's that one, and then there's another one. There's
a number of tape emulators out there. Ultimately.
Some of those are pretty good though. And then in other technology, like I've used the most is DX Revive Pro. And so that's really good for isolating, and that's more post-production, not necessarily music. But DX Revive is really great if you're wanting to separate, or if you have headphone bleed too, you can, it has that stem isolation kind of separator.
Just help pull the headphone bleed out.
And it's really good for that.
Now, do you have friends or do you yourself get excited about the idea of an old tape machine and recording to that and then sort of
like the
transferring
Atari,
that into
like
the computer?
Yeah, definitely. I want to experience more of that. But one of my professors had me at his studio clean all the tape heads, everything. He had me clean and then take it apart and put it back together. And that was a really good experience because it was so different than anything I'd touched ever before. Because it's like, I don't know, it's similar, I guess, to cassette in a way of the, the playback and record. And yeah. That was the Michael Jackson we had the radio with the cassette player in it.
But do you have a cassette that will record so you can record onto it and play it back for stuff? Yeah, it's a fun way to do it.
In my dad's rack. I haven't yet, but I want to get into that. The older stuff, a lot of it's like question marks for me, because me and my friend group we're also into learning the Pro Tools and in the box and that kind of mixing, because it's so much easier and the accessibility. And there's a lot to learn.
That's the thing is, like, I walk into my studio and I look around at all this stuff I've got sometimes, and I'm like, good Lord, there's not enough. I couldn't have enough lifetimes to learn
really
all this
learn
stuff.
And really know it. Yeah.
And now with the digital, even just in the digital world, there's so much to learn.
It's like option paralysis sometimes of which thing do I dive into next and what do I have time for?
And that's one of the beauties about starting with the song seed. It's the idea of the song is just coming back to that, having that home base, figuring out what it is that you're really interested in. So let me ask you this question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
That's a good question.
Mom, Dad, you're going to love this one.
I've been trying to figure it out. I don't know. I felt like I had a very clear direction in where I was going. In the fall, I was like, I'm going to be a producer. I don't know how, I don't know where, I don't know what. And then I had the rug pulled out from under me. Mm-hmm. And
how so?
Well, when my grandma passed away, she's the reason why I did everything music-wise. And all she wanted was for me to be happy. And I hated everything that I was doing in the fall and last year. And
was that related to a lot of the technical engineering side of stuff? Yeah,
and the relationships that I had with not necessarily people, but the ways in which I would do things wasn't serving me, wasn't making me the happiest.
Right.
So then
too many click tracks, too many robotic things.
Too many too many things that were maybe too concrete, because I have a problem thinking very black and white. And I think discovering the gray is my next mission. So next 5 years is, right now I'm doing a lot of traveling and doing a lot of soul searching kind of vibe, but I really want to have a lot of things released that I care about and that I'm passionate about. And they say that if you do something that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Right. And that's really what I want to do. I am not working for the man, and then catch me in 5 years from now working for the man. I don't know. I hope not. I really hope not. So 5 years from now, I want to be doing my passions, living somewhere too that I have a really strong community, because that's really important. Found family and community is really important to me. And getting up every day and doing my yoga and then doing what I really love to do, which is songwriting, recording, everything. I live, breathe music, and I would like to continue to do that. I don't know where, I don't know how, but not working for the man, doing my passions and really enjoying what I do every day is where I'd want to be.
So this is probably an impossible question to answer, but what about 10 years?
10 years? What's 10 years from now? I'd be 32. I do really want a family too. So I'd be thinking about that. I'd probably be starting to think about that at 32. But I'd want to figure out, I'd want to spend the next 10 years figuring out location-wise where I would end up, quote unquote, and then sort of center my life a little bit more around that. I don't know if it's New York. I don't know if it's Nashville. I don't know if it's Tahiti. I don't know if it's my one friend moved to Vietnam. I don't know.
It's a good time now to go explore.
Exactly.
Sure.
And so that's kind of what I want to do. And then, when I'm 32, I want to have, my own little family probably. But what's most important to me is the art and having by then, something concrete that I can look back and be proud of. Yeah.
Okay, so now this question is hypothetical, as were the others, but this one's particularly hypothetical.
Yeah.
And this is one I love to ask all the guests on the show. So, and you probably heard it before, but we're going to take the way back studio machine, which I don't know how far back you want to go, but You have been performing for 20 years, so you can probably go back pretty far if you wanted. And you get to go back in time and you get to find young Abbie and say, listen,
me.
Abbie, normal. I've come back to give you this one bit of advice. Here's the single most important thing you need to know to be a rock star of the studio yourself one day. What advice do you feel like you'd like to go back and give yourself if you could?
Be the weird girl. Embrace being the weird girl. Like, they call you Abbie Normal for a reason. Nobody who has ever been anything has been somebody normal. And I think, like, being the weird girl, you've got to really embrace that and not even let the be yourself, but be as weird as possible and have fun doing it. Be the weird girl you are. Yeah.
What do you think about the potential moments where you try and embrace that and then, you open your eyes and somebody's laughing at you? I mean, we all feel that. We all fear that, don't we?
Yeah, and I have been in that many times.
I remember it in the seventh grade dance.
Yeah.
I remember getting down to sticks cranking over the stereo system.
Yeah.
And I was dancing so hard. I was like, I probably looked like a Muppet. My arms are flailing. My head's back. Yeah. And I come up and I look and like the kids are like pointing and laughing.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably was funny and I just didn't know it.
Yeah.
And I looked down and my shoes are untied.
Yeah, or like your pants are falling down. Like, yeah. Or everybody's had the like naked in front of the school dream. Like,
oh yeah.
But I think
in the hallways.
Yeah, the terror, nightmare. But if those people are laughing at you, find the ones that can laugh with you and then get through the hard times with you. If a lot of it is about finding those people that are there for you through when you cry, when you have crash outs, and when you're, feeling the most self-doubt and will be supportive of you no matter what. And when you're your weirdest, they match your weird. Yes. The kids say, match my freak. You have to find the people that match your freak. And so if those people are laughing at you, their loss. Like, I guess they're just not about that life. And so you've got to stick with weird's got to stick with weird, Yeah.
I love it. Well, Abbie, this is amazing to have you on the podcast.
Thanks,
what a blast.
Awesome.
I knew you'd just kill it. You do great. Let the
fun.
Rockstars know, where can they find out more about you? Where can they go listen to your music? Yeah.
All right. So my Instagram is Abbie E. Griffin or Abbie Griffin Music. I'll be posting there more. Then I have a YouTube channel that's also Abbie Griffin, and it's ABBIE Griffin. I'm a little unique.
No normal. Just
no normal. No Abbie
there.
Normal. Just ABBIE GRIFFIN. And I have AbbieGriffinMusic.com. AbbieGriffinMusic.com and Instagram and YouTube and Spotify is Abbie Griffin. Listen to Little Bird live from Onie's house.
Do you feel like your name is fitting? I mean, you're a lion with wings.
Yeah. Well, I think that I don't know that people have always told me, "Oh, you have such a good name," because I have a lot of double letters in it.
Right.
But I was Abigail, and then my dad, when on my first birthday, wrote on the cake Abbie with IE, and I love having to tell people, "Oh, actually, not with a Y, it's an IE."
Right.
And I think also my Abigail
even the app tried to misspell
father's
your name
joy
when I was getting
too.
ready for this.
Yeah, like literally, and I love when like the found people in my life, they tell their people, "Oh, it's not a Y, it's an IE," and so I love that. And I think Griffin is like, well, Abigail means father's joy, and Griffin is a mythical creature, and I've been told that I'm a weird mix of everything, and me and my dad are like this, and I've been told I'm like weird girl enigmatic, which sometimes has been used as an insult, but I don't care. I mean,
it is a lion with wings.
It's true.
Right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, you're king or queen of the jungle, and you've got wings. You're going to go places.
I guess so.
That's pretty cool.
Let's hope. But I do think it's fitting. I always resonate with my name.
Right on. Rockstars, thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Recording Studio Rockstars. Make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any more interviews with us. And kick that like button. Kick it. Can you give us a good kick? There you go. Awesome. And we'll see you in the next episode. And drop a comment in too and let us know if you got any questions or want to give us a shout out or say hi to Abbie, or, you got thoughts about things we said about songwriting. I guess a good question. What's a good question for the Rockstars to answer about songwriting?
What's your songwriting ritual? I want to know. I want to know what other people do. If they have a inspiration candle or a moleskin or what pencil you use. Yeah, let me know.
I love it. All right. We'll see you in the next episode. Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Recording Studio Rockstars. If you enjoyed the show and want to help make it better, then please share this episode with your friends on social media and leave a rating and review on iTunes to help the podcast reach more rock stars like yourself. You can click directly over to iTunes or go to rsrockstars.com/review for an easy explanation. And remember to hit the subscribe button to keep up with weekly episodes. And if you're ready to make your best record ever now, then head over to Recording Studio Rockstars Academy, where you can start with my free course at mixmasterbundle.com. Thanks so much for listening, and thanks for being a rock star. I'm Lij Shaw, and this is Recording Studio Rockstars. Now, go make great music. Recording Studio Rockstars would like to give a big thank you to our awesome sponsors who help make this episode possible. iZotope, Native Instruments, Atom Audio, and SAE Institute. And remember to take advantage of our special coupon codes at iZotope.com and nativeinstruments.com. Use the coupon code ROCK10 for 10% off any plug-in purchase. And don't forget, you can start mixing right now with my free course at mixmasterbundle.com. If you enjoyed Recording Studio Rockstars, please check out our sponsors using the links in the show notes. These are all things I highly recommend for your studio. They're going to help you make your best record ever. Also, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel because it's a great way for you to help support this show. I'd also like to thank our fantastic team here at Recording Studio Rockstars, Vlad Weselchenko and Liz Hulitskaya. Thanks so much for watching and listening, Rockstars. We'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.